Bhaktir Om Agyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukham karoti vachanam pangam langyate girim yatkripatamaham vande Shri Gurudina Taranam Paramanandam Madhavam. All glories to the assembled devotees. So we were in the first part of chapter 24, Canto 3, where we see Devahuti becoming sad at the imminent departure of her husband Kardam, and then she reminds him of his promise. Well, he hadn't specifically promised to give her a son, but she indirectly reminds him of the fact that the Lord had committed to him that I will appear as a son. She reminds him of her duty as a husband to make sure that she is properly protected. And Devahuti is not just asking for material protection, she says, Abhaidan, that make me fearless. Essentially, she's asking for spiritual liberation. And Kardamuni is very favorably inclined to Devahuti because of all her good qualities. And he agrees, and also he remembers the conversation between him and the Lord. So, as a result of their union, a portion of the Lord appears in the womb of Devahuti. And then we have a set of verses that describe how everything becomes auspicious. The demigods become happy, the Apsaras, the Gandharvas, they dance with the ecstasy. So whenever the Lord appears, then those who are pious, they naturally become enlivened. And of course, for those who are impious, the opposite happens. So here we see that all the pious residents who were aware of the appearance of the Lord became very, very happy at the appearance of Lord Kapila in the womb of Devahuti. And even Lord Brahma himself, along with his associates, he comes. And he comes to glorify Devahuti. So we will resume from verse 11. So third canto, chapter 24, verse 11. Sabhajayan vishuddhena chetashata chikrishatam praharshamanera subhihi kardamam chedam abhyadat. After worshipping the Supreme Lord with gladdened senses and a pure heart for his intended activities as an incarnation, Brahma spoke as follows to Kardam and Devahuti. So Prabhupada says in the purport that one who understands the activities of the Lord, his appearance and disappearance, becomes liberated. So this verse comes in the 4th chapter, 9th. It's the 9th verse. Janma karma chame devyam yo me veti tattvata takta deham punarjanmam neti ma iti Arjuna. Krishna himself says to Arjuna, when one understands the Janma karma chame devyam, that my appearance and my activities are divine. So essentially what it means is one who understands the position of Krishna. So Prabhupada says that based on this, we can understand that Brahma is a liberated soul. And in the subsequent verses, we'll see Brahma glorifying Devahuti and Kardama. So one question that might arise over here is that if Brahma is aware of the position of the Lord, then he should also be aware of the fact that the Lord really doesn't have a father and mother. The Lord is supremely independent. So why should he be glorifying Kardama and Devahuti? And Prabhupada explains that the reason is that the devotees of the Lord, they actually consider his devotees to be even greater than the Lord, because they are the via medium through which the Lord manifests himself. Now, in this case, it's the it's the actual manifestation. That because of the good qualities of Kardam and Devahuti, the chastity of Devahuti, the strong devotion of Kardam, the strong desire, the Lord appears physically there. But we also know that it's only the devotees who can give bhakti to other devotees, or to those who are aspiring to be devotees. So that's why Krishna himself says that one who considers himself to be my devotee is not really my devotee. But one who considers himself to be a devotee of my devotee, he is really my devotee. So following that mood, we see Brahma glorifying Kardam and Devahuti. So Prabhupada quotes a verse spoken by a Brahmin. It's not clear where Prabhupada is quoting from, but the purport is very similar. So he says the verse says that others might be interested in Vedas or Puranas, but he is interested in Nanda Maharaj, who appeared as the father of Krishna. And why? Because in the courtyard of Nand Baba, the personality of Godhead crawled on his knees and smeared himself with the dirt of the house of Nand Baba. So Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. But he becomes so affectionate to his devotees that he reciprocates with whatever mood that they have. Nand Baba had that mood, and in order to reciprocate to that mood, Krishna came as a child to their house, and just like a child, he rolled around in the dust. He would carry the slippers of Nand Baba. When it would rain, he would get scared and he would hide in the dhoti of Nand Baba. So that's the greatness of the devotees, that they control even the Lord. So that's why we see that Brahma is glorifying Kardam and Devahuti. Okay, next verse 12. Brahma vacha vayame pachitistata kalpita nirvayali kataha yanme sangraje vakyam bhavan manad manayan. Lord Brahma said, my dear son Kardam, since you have completely accepted my instructions without duplicity, showing them proper respect, you have worshipped me properly. Whatever instructions you took from me, you have carried out, and thereby you have honored me. So Brahma is glorifying the good qualities of Kardam. And it's interesting that the same mood is being glorified. So Brahma is not saying, Kardam, you have a direct connection with the Lord, you're so great. that the Lord himself has come as your son, you're the father of the Lord, so you're an exalted personality. But actually, he's glorifying the fact that Kardam himself is serving another devotee of the Lord, which happens to be Brahma himself. But he's actually glorifying this Bhakta Savior Bhav of Kardama. So he calls him Tat. So Tat is uh, a very affectionate way of addressing somebody, saying that you're dear most to me. So my dear son. And also we are reminded of the potency of parampara. That Lord Brahma, he received his instructions from Krishna. Krishna said that now you go ahead and populate this universe. Then Lord Brahma, he passed on those instructions to his son, and also there is also his disciples. And Kardam Muni received that instruction. And according to that instruction, and acting as per that instruction, he married Devahuti. He had 9 daughters, and now he has the Lord himself as his son. So he's also especially appreciating Kardam Muni because he was aware of the extreme renunciation in Kardam. So even though Kardam, we had seen in the earlier chapter that he was he was not really interested in marriage. He was very renounced, very austere. He had some desires to marry, but his primary motivation behind entering the Grahastha ashram was to honor the instruction that was given to him by his guru and father, Brahma. So we see Brahma here acknowledging that quality. So in these conversations also, the exemplary qualities are brought forth. What is it that makes a person spiritually ready for spiritual advancement? So the quality that is being glorified is that of being able to sincerely follow the instructions of the Guru, despite what your personal proclamations is. And this will be further developed in the subsequent chapters. Okay, next verse, 13. Etavate tasushrusha karipitari putrakahe badam mitya anumanyeta gaurvena gururvachaha. Son ought to render service to the father exactly to this extent. One should obey the command of his father or spiritual master with due deference, saying, yes, sir. So Prabhupada translates Badhamiti. So Badhamiti means in an agreeable way. Like Prabhupada says, with due deference, accepting it. And he adds, yes,
I think we have lost Prabhu again. No? Prabhu, can you hear?
No, we can't. Maybe it's speaking. I see him speaking.
Oh, you can see him? I can't see the video.
I'm trying to join back. I Zoom only.
Can you speak again, Prabhu? No, we can't hear you in the Zoom.
Okay. So yeah, either it shows.
Can you hear us, Prabhu? In Zoom?
Yeah, he could hear us, but we couldn't hear him.
But he's still logging, no? I can see his name.
No, he's logging out now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Prabhu, we can hear you,
And
but we have 2 sessions from you now. And now one is gone. Okay.
okay.
So let's see if we can see you. Yeah, we can see you too. Okay.
Okay. So we were doing verse 13, and I was talking about Srila Prabhupada's emphasis on this mood of deference, Gauravena, between father and son, or guru and disciple. So he says, Gauravena Gurur Vacha. Gurur Vacha is the words spoken by the guru, and Anumantena Gauravena. So Anumantena, one should obey it. Gauravena is with respect. One should obey it. So elsewhere, Prabhupada says that that a first class, and he uses son and disciple interchangeably. He says the first class disciple is one who anticipates the desires of the guru and acts accordingly. So does not even wait for the guru to ask, but anticipates that. Then a second class disciple is that when the guru asks something, then with great respect, he follows that. Third class disciple is one who follows it but reluctantly. So he says, oh, my guru has asked me, I guess I need to do it. I don't seem to have a choice. Let me do it. So with reluctance, the disciple follows. And the third offense to chanting is Guru Avagya. So Guru Avagya literally translates to not giving proper consideration. So we generally translate it to disobeying the orders of the spiritual master. But Avagya actually means that not following it with due deference, or to treat it as something that is mundane. So which means even if the disciple follows it, but with resentment or half-heartedly or externally, even that is considered to be an offense to the guru. So this point is being made over here. Prabhupada says that the advantage of this is that if a disciple follows the instructions of the guru in this matter, he is sure to become perfect. And this is confirmed in the Upanishads, that the import of the Vedic instructions is revealed automatically only to one who has implicit faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his spiritual master. So this is a verse in Shvetaswar Upanishad. Prabhupada quotes this quite often. I am not able to remember the verse right now. I'll look it up. But this is one of Prabhupada's often quoted verses. Verse 14. Ima duhe taraha satyas tava vats samadhyamaha sargam me tam prabhavahi sve brahmahayashanti anekadaha. Lord Brahma then praised Kardama Muni's 9 daughters, saying, all you thin-waisted daughters are certainly very chaste. I am sure they will increase this creation by their own descendants in various ways. So the 9 daughters of Kardama Muni are the demonstration of his following the instructions of Brahma. Because when Brahma had produced the Manasputras, he had produced all men. In fact, Shatrupa was the first woman that he had produced. There's an earlier Brahma that had produced Vak also, and it's not clear at what stage produced. But the Acharyas say that the Vak pastime does not happen in every universe and for every Brahma. So some Brahma in some universe. So naturally, Lord Brahma was interested in the appearances of women, so that they could help in the process of expanding the population. So he was appreciating the 9 daughters of Devahuti and Kardam. Prabhupada says that the word Sumadhyam means a good daughter of a beautiful woman. If she has a thin waist, a woman is considered very beautiful. All the daughters of Kardama Muni were of the same beautiful feature. Verse 15. Atastvam rishi mukhyebhyo yatha shilam yatha ruchi atmaja paridyadya vistrinihi vasho bhuvi. Therefore, today please give away your daughters to the foremost of the sages, with due regard for the girls' temperament and likings, and thereby spread your fame all over the universe. So Srila Prabhupada in the purport once again writes a little bit about the concept of Vedic marriage. That in a Vedic marriage, it's important for the girl and the prospective groom to be compatible. And then he talks about different kinds of compatibility. One is the compatibility of the nature. That if a girl is Brahmanical and she gets married to a Kshatriya who is chivalrous, that match may not work out well, because their conceptions of life will be different. The Kshatriya, it's valor, the Kshatriyas tend to boast, they tend to speak eloquently, they like combat, they like conquest. Brahmins are humble, speak only as much as is needed, involve themselves in the study of the scriptures. So a girl with a Brahmanical temperament will obviously not be a suitable match for a Kshatriya man, and vice versa also. So Prabhupada says important to look at the compatibilities of the temperament. And he also says important to look at the astrological charts. So this is kind of interesting, because Prabhupada would often, he would not really denigrate astrology, but he was not in favor of his disciples taking to astrology. And he would give a couple of reasons. He would say astrology is a Vedic science, but there are no astrologers. Most of them are either crooks who are basically using it to make money, even if they are well-intentioned, they don't really understand the science. So he did not really encourage. And then he would also say that for devotees, astrology doesn't matter, because astrology can only talk about your destiny from the perspective of karma. But for devotees, the karma is different. It's taken over by Krishna. So at one point he said that when you clap in the kirtan, the hands in your palm change. Of course, they don't actually change. He was speaking metaphorically, that your destiny changes when you take to Krishna consciousness. But in the context of marriage, he does seem to say that on a very consistent basis, that matching of the astrological charts should be done. And maybe it's him acknowledging the fact that there is a fair amount of material endeavor in most of the marriages, and maybe that's why he accepts the fact that since it is mostly a material endeavor, there is value added in looking at it from that perspective. Astrology, temperament, the status of the family, the preference of the girl, so all those factors. So here what we see, that Brahma is instructing Kardam Muni and Devahuti to hand over his 9 daughters to suitable grooms. Verse 16. Vedahamadayam purusham avirtirnam swamayaya bhutanam sevadim deham Vibranam Kapilam Mune. O Kardam, I know that the original Supreme Personality of Godhead has now appeared as an incarnation by his internal energy. He is the bestower of all that is desired by the living entities. And he has now assumed the body of Kapila Muni. So Brahma uses the word Swamayaya to distinguish the appearance of the Lord from other kinds of seminal births. So when we take birth, it is not Swamayaya, it is Mayaya. It is because of the influence of the modes of material nature. When in the 14th chapter, it's described that how, based on the desires of a soul and based on its qualification, it is awarded the next birth. But the next birth is given to it. For the Lord, he is not forced to take birth. He appears because of his independent desire. So it's Swamayaya, by his own internal potency. And Prabhupada says that Krishna notes in Bhagavad Gita that when people see him taking a birth in this way, they mistake him to be a human. So he's referring to verses 15 and 24 in chapter 4 of Bhagavad Gita. It says, rascals, mudas, consider the body of Krishna to be the body of a human. And then the word Shevadim means that he's the original bestower of all the necessities of life upon the living entities. In the Vedas also it is stated that he is the chief living entities and that he bestows all the desired necessities of other living entities. Because he is the bestower of all necessities, he is called God. Does anybody know which verse Prabhupada is referring to? It's a very famous verse, again one of Prabhupada's favorite verses. That there is one who is supporting everybody else. who's fulfilling the desires.
If the verse Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetanam.
Yes, thank you. So that's the verse Prabhupada is referring to. Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam Eko Bhavanam Yo Vidatate Kaman. So this is actually a verse from Katha Upanishad 2 to 13. Okay, let's move on. Verse 17. Jnana Vigyan Yogena Karmana Mudaranjataha Hiranyakesha Padmaksha Padmamudra Padmabhujaha. By mystic yoga and the practical application of knowledge from the scriptures, Kapil Muni, who is characterized by his golden hair, his eyes just like lotus petals, and his lotus feet, which bear the mark of the lotus flower, will uproot the deep-rooted desire for work in this material world. So the appearance of the Lord is always auspicious. So wherever there is Lord, there is auspicious. So here Brahma, after stating that he's aware that the Lord has come as Kapila, is now noting the auspiciousness that the appearance of the Lord will create. So he briefly describes the bodily features of Kapila. And lotus is one of the very popular items of similes that 3 times he uses here. That Padmaksha, Padmamudra, Padmabhuja, that he has eyes like lotus. Padmamudra is that he has the mark of the lotus flower. And Padmabhuja is lotus feet. So Kapil Muni is also described. So the word Kapila means reddish. So his complexion is reddish. His hair are golden. His eyes are beautifully shaped like the petals of a lotus. And he has the auspicious marks of the lotus on his feet. The brief description of Lord Kapila Muni. He also talks about what will he do. So he says Jnana Vijnana. So Jnana is knowledge. The knowledge that is received through the disciplic succession from the scriptures. And Vijnana means the realization that comes from the application of the knowledge under the guidance of the Guru. So he is indicating that Kapila will give both. He will give the knowledge, and we will see in Devahuti that he will actually also empower her to realize that knowledge. And not just Devahuti, he preaches to others also. Asuri Brahman he preaches. But he is not just giving intellectual knowledge. So he's giving the path to actually pursue that knowledge and internalize it. So knowledge is good only so far. Unless knowledge is internalized, at some point it actually becomes a burden. So there are people who are just intellectuals. They're called armchair philosophers. They know a lot, they've read a lot, but they don't act upon it. And that knowledge actually begins to contaminate the consciousness of a person. It creates pride, arrogance, creates a speculative mentality. So the proper use of knowledge is to apply it in one's life. And the Sankhya system that Kapila will give is based on Gyan and Vigyan. So we will see that in the subsequent chapters, where Kapila, he not only gives knowledge like about how is the universe created, the structure of the universe. So he gives Gyan. He also gives practical instructions, how to live the life of devotion. So that's why he is being specifically recognized and glorified. Vishwanath Chakravarti, in his commentary, he says that Gyan can be understood to refer to the knowledge of the impersonal Brahman, and Vigyan can be understood to realizing the form of the Lord. Okay, verse 18. Esha manavi te garbam pravishta kaita bhardanaha avidya samshaya granthim titvagam vicharishyati. Lord Brahma then told Devahuti, my dear daughter of Manu, the same Supreme Personality of Godhead who killed the demon Kaitap is now within your womb. He will cut off all the knots of your ignorance and doubt. Then he will travel all over the world. So far Brahma was speaking to Kardam Muni. So we see that he had glorified how he followed his instruction. Then he was speaking to both Kardam Muni and Devahuti. Now he is speaking exclusively to Devahuti, because Kardam Muni will not be a part of this interaction. So what is the interaction that he is saying? Avidya samshaya granthim. So the original cause of material bondage is avidya. So if you remember back to the second canto, and when we were talking about in the 5th chapter, when we were talking about the Visarga, the secondary creation, then the very first thing that Brahma creates in the secondary creation is avidya. And avidya means forgetting your real identity. So avidya follows with the second thing that he creates is moha. Moha means assuming a new identity. So one cannot assume a new identity unless one forgets their original identity. So avidya is the root cause. So he's saying avidya samshaya grantham, that this symptom of avidya is samshaya. So samshaya means that you begin to doubt even that appears to be authoritative. So sometimes you go and talk to people about the existence of God, and you can make a compelling case. There's so many aspects that you can talk about. The fact that if there is a creation, there needs to be a creator. The fact that if there is a design, there needs to be an architect. The fact that everything is working in order. And if the person is listening with an open mind, they will typically end the conversation saying that I don't know. I really can't say. So that samshaya is the symptom of avidya. If that avidya was not there, and then you made a case, then the person would say, yes, what you say makes sense, there is God. So I will pursue my life accordingly. Not only some person, that is there within us also. There is always some level of samshaya. Because if that samshaya was completely not there, then we would completely dedicate our lives to the instructions of Guru and Krishna. But what are we doing? We are trying to dedicate our life. So when we say trying, what it means is that we are fighting against something. There is something that is holding us back, and then we are trying to overcome it. What is holding us back? That's samshaya. So in the 4th chapter, 40th verse, Krishna actually, he condemns this samshaya as something that is even worse than avidya. So he says, agyascha shatadanyascha samshayatma vinashati nayam lokasti naparo na sukham sanshayat. Did I get disconnected? Am I there?
Yeah, good, Prabhu.
Oh,
Looks like I muted him. Yeah.
okay. So that so avidya samshaya granthi. So this doubting nature that comes from the root forgetfulness of one's entity, that is what will be destroyed by the jnana vijnana that is offered by Lord Kapila. And Brahma, he identifies the Lord as the killer of the demon Kaitab. So we know that Madhu and Kaitab are the two original demons. They appeared at the dawn of creation. So just like avidya and samshaya, they also appeared at the dawn of creation. So just like the Lord killed the demon Kaitam, similarly, Lord Kapila will now kill the other demon of avidya and samshaya. In his Krama Sandarbha, when commenting on this verse, Jiva Goswami, he makes this point that Devahuti is already at a position where she is liberated. But just like Arjun or just like Uddhav, they appeared to be bewildered so that they could receive instructions to teach others. Devahuti is also in the same position. So he says that to address somebody's question, that if Devahuti is caught up in this avidya samshaya grantham, how could she become the mother of the personality of God? And he's saying that she is not, but she is doing that as a service to the Lord. Okay, I'll do one more verse and then we'll pause for any discussion. Ayam siddha ganadisha sankhya-chara sushmataha lokikapilitya akhyama gantate kirtivardanaha. Your son will be the head of all the perfected souls. He will be approved by the acharyas, expert in disseminating real knowledge. And among the people, he will be celebrated by the name Kapil. As the son of Devahuti, he will increase your fame. So still, Brahma is speaking directly to Devahuti, and he's glorifying the activities of the Lord. That he will give forth that knowledge that will be disseminated by the people who are expert in real knowledge. And he will increase the fame of Devahuti. So in the Padma Purana, it is said that Kapila or Vasudeva, is called Vasudeva also over there, spoke the real Sankhya, which is filled with all the deep meanings of Vedas. And this was spoken to Brahma and to others, the Devas, sages like Bhrigu, and to a very exalted Brahman called Asuri Brahman. There is another Kapila who spoke the Sankhya, which is contrary to the Vedas, which is filled with all kinds of bad logic. And that was spoken to another person, also by the name Asuri. And Srila Prabhupada often tries to make this distinction because in both the cases, the name of the speaker is Kapila. What they spoke is considered to be Sankhya, and the prominent recipient is a Brahman by the name Asuri. But the difference is that the other Kapila, as Prabhupada says, is a pretender, and he spoke faulty logic. I'm not sure what is it that he speaks, if it is Vaidism or impersonalism or atheism. But Prabhupada always says that he speaks faulty logic that one should not follow. And essentially he says that so that we don't get confused. So we might say that Kapila and Sankhya spoke such and such things, but then the question would be which Kapila and which Sankhya. Sankhya is a generic word which basically means, literally it means counting. Contextually it means analysis and analysis of things. Okay, so let me pause here, see if you have any discussion.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Okay, go ahead.
I heard Prabhupada saying atheistic Kapila. They usually say atheistic Kapila. The last one you were mentioning about.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, he does say
and,
maybe.
And I heard in one of the classes, it said that not from Prabhupada, but one of the disciples, second generation, that atheistic Kapila says that the life came from matter and there is no God. Typical atheism. That's what I heard, but I haven't read myself or heard completely fully. So just I thought that I would share. And I have a question about the first few verses that you're talking about, where I think the 12th verse or 12th verse, I believe, where it says in the purport, Prabhupada says, we all have 4 defects of this material conditioning, and one who follows the orders of the instructions of the spiritual master is out of the 4 defects. He is considered to be out of the 4 defects. That is a statement that comes in purport. Not exactly, I'm paraphrasing it. And I was thinking that, even if a disciple is not perfectly carrying out the instruction, is he still considered to be out of the 4 defects? Or how to understand this? Is it the right understanding?
It is the right understanding that if the disciple is sincerely trying to follow the instructions of the guru, then his activities are freed from material considerations, because what the guru tells you is coming from the scriptures or the parampara, and when one follows it, then because the guru is free from the 4 defects, the instructions that he gives are free from the 4 defects. So when you follow the instructions, then it automatically inherits that quality of being free from the 4 defects. So example is that guru asks you to chant, right? And we follow that instruction. So in following that instruction, the other defects that contaminate us are endeavors that whether we try to apply our intelligence on it, how can saying the Lord's name be helpful? We speculate on it. We try to impose our empiric senses that I'm chanting, but I'm not seeing the Lord, or I'm not experiencing anything. All those automatically go away. Right? The Guru says chant, I chant. I may not be able to chant perfectly. It's a journey, but at least following that instruction, it liberates me from those defects.
Thank you, Prabhu. Just have one more, maybe Prabhu allows me, I can ask one more question. Regarding the son and the disciple that you are Prabhupada writing about, how a disciple or as a son, one obeys the authority of a father or a spiritual master. So what I forgot exactly the wording, but my question is, what if the spiritual master's instruction is not the same as father's instruction, or what if there's a conflict? And this is something which happens nowadays. Maybe in the olden days, when Kapila's days, it's may not be the case. So could you please give us some.
Prabhupada was very practical in that way. So he made this point that once you accept initiation, then your spiritual master is a spiritual father. Then he's your father. But at the same time, you still have responsibilities. There is social decorum, etiquette towards the seminal father. So his instructions were that as much as possible, try and accommodate. So we see in the lives of his disciples that he would ask them to give respect to their father, to take care of them. I think there was a case when either the father or mother who was sick, and Prabhupada instructed the disciple to take care, as long as it does not impinge on your devotion. Now, in an extreme case where the father says that you either you follow my instructions and you give up your devotion, so then Prabhupada is very clear that your spiritual life is very important. This relationship with your father is just this lifetime. So no need to follow that. The example of Giriraj Swami is there, right? His father came, and his father was very, very determined to take his son back. And Prabhupada was initially counseling Giriraj Swami that try to make the best of both. That be a good son to your father, but also be a good devotee. But then matters came to a head. The father came to meet Prabhupada. He opened his checkbook. He wrote a check, and I'm not sure how much. Some say $1 million, some say different amount, but he wrote a check of a large amount. And then he said that, take this money and give me my son. And Prabhupada said, it's your son's decision. And of course, Giriraj Maharaj said that, I would like to continue my service. Prabhupada did not hesitate, even though in those days, there was hardly any money in the movement. And apparently his father was very, very wealthy. Ultimately, he did, many years later, he did leave his body and gave all the money to Giriraj Maharaj, which he used to start that, or he's still using it in different Krishna conscious activities. But he started that hospice care in Vrindavan. But the point is that as far as possible, one should try and accommodate. But if there is a conflict, then one should prioritize one's spiritual life. And actually, the verse that I was searching for is in the Sveta Upanishad, is the Yasadeve Parabhakti, Yatha Tatha Guru, that unto those great souls who have implicit faith in both the Lord and the spiritual master, all the imports of the Vedic knowledge are automatically revealed.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. When you were saying Sankhya is an analysis of, I did not catch the word that you were saying. Is an analysis of?
Sankhya, so it means counting or analysis. It's an analysis of matter and spirit.
Mhm.
So essentially, at a very high level, what Sankhya does is that it analyzes things that are around you, and then by systematic analysis, you can understand that this is matter, this is spirit, and this is Lord. So then one can repose their faith accordingly.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Sure.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Just wanted to confirm my understanding. So text 12, Brahma praises Kardama saying he carried out his orders, meaning the orders of Lord Brahma, and without cheating. Perhaps you spoke about this, I must have missed it. So does the cheating mean that he followed the orders of Brahma and he followed it in the right consciousness? Could we say that? Like when you spoke about Guru Ravagnya, sorry, please go ahead.
Yes. I was actually going to say what you were saying, that without cheating essentially means that he made it his life and soul. So I briefly mentioned about the various cadre of disciples, and there are some disciples who will follow the instructions of the Guru, but with a lot of resentment, and may want to cut corners. But Brahma is appreciating the fact that Karda Muni made his instruction his life and soul, and without any duplicity, without any resentment, even though it was perhaps not what he himself would have wanted to do, but he still followed through the instruction. So that's what Brahma is appreciating. Okay. Any other questions, comments? So we'll move on to verse 20. Maitri vacha tavasvasya jagatsrashta kumarahe sahanarada hamso hamse nayanena tridhama param yayau. Sri Maitreya said, after thus speaking to Karda Muni and his wife Devahuti, Lord Brahma, the creator of the universe, who is also known as Hamsa, went back to the highest of the three planetary systems on his swan carrier with the four Kumars and Narad. So Prabhupada comments on the word Hamsena Yanena. And he says Hamsena Yanena, it refers to the career of Lord Brahma. So Brahma travels, and Prabhupada says he travels in an airplane that resembles a swan, which is interesting. That generally it is said that that Brahma rides a swan, and Prabhupada makes a slight distinction over here, saying that he travels in an airplane resembling a swan. And then he says that Brahma is also known as Hamsa himself, because Hamsa has this quality. Hamsa means swan, and swan has this quality of distilling milk and water. So if you give a swan milk mixed with water, it will drink the milk and leave the water. So when it is applied in the context of great personalities, it refers to the ability of accepting the spiritual essence and leaving everything that is not relevant to spirituality. So when a person becomes more advanced, he is known as Paramhamsa. So it refers to this ability of only accepting that is conducive to spiritual advancement in all situations. Then Brahma's abode is also described here, Tridhama Parama. So Tridham is the middle, lower, and upper planetary system. And actually, Brahma's Dham is so above so this is the Swarga, the Bhu, and the Bhuvar. So the earth, the intermediate, and the heavenly system, planetary system. So even above that, there is the other lokas like Janaloka, Maharloka, Tapaloka. And Brahma is higher than even all of them. So his abode is even higher than Siddhaloka. And he went there with the 4 Kumars and Narad. So why does Maitreya mention specifically 4 Kumars and Narad? And the reason will become clear in the subsequent verses, that Brahma had instructed Devahuti and Kardam to give their daughters in marriage to the sages. And both the 4 Kumars and Narad, they're Naistik Brahmacharis. So Brahma knows that there is no need for them to stay back, or they're not much interested in these kinds of things. So he takes them back, but the remaining, and some of them are his Manasputras, some of them are the Prajapatis, they will then accept the 9 daughters of Devahuti in marriage. Verse 21. Gate sadratau kshataha kardamaste nachoditaha yathoditam swa duhitraha pradadvishvasrajam tataha. O Vidur, after the departure of Brahma, Kardama Muni, having been ordered by Brahma, handed over his 9 daughters as instructed to the 9 sages who created the population of the world. So these are the 9 Prajapatis, which is why Narad and the 4 Kumars left, because they don't have the position of Prajapatis. 22-23. Mariche kalam pradad anasuyam athatraye shraddhama girase yacha pulastyaye havir bhuvam kulhaya gatim yuktam kratvecha kriyam satim yatim cha bhragave yacha vashisthaya piyarundatim. Kardama Muni handed over his daughters Kala to Marichi and another daughter Anasuya to Atri. He delivered Shraddha to Angira and Havirbu to Pulastya. He delivered Gati to Pulaha, the chaste Kriya to Kratu, Khyati to Brigu, and Arundhati to Vashishta. So these daughters themselves are empowered by the Lord's potency to create. Just like the Prajapatis are, so are these daughters. Vishwanath Chakravarti mentions, specifically it talks about Arundhati. So Arundhati is the wife of Vashishta. Vashishta is, of course, a famous Brahma Rishi. And Arundhati is famous as the personification of chastity. So Rundhati means to oppose. And Arundhati means one who never opposes the will of her husband unreasonably. But he mentions that it's not just Arundhati, but all the daughters were personifications of all good qualities and chastity. Next verse. Atharvane dadakshantim yaya yagyo vitanyate viprashabhan krito vahan sadarad samalayat. He delivered Shanti to Atharva. Because of Shanti, sacrificial ceremonies are well performed. Thus he got the foremost Brahmanas married, and he maintained them along with their wives. So we see the 9 daughters. Quick summation that Kala is married to Marichi. Marichi is one of the Manasputras of Brahma, and they are famous for having Prajapati Kashyap as their son. So really speaking, a huge branch of the universe is populated by Kashyap. Kashyap later on marries the daughters of Daksha. Daksha is married to the sister of Devahuti, Prasuti, and the daughters are married to Kashyap. And many species are created. The demigods are created, the Danavs are created, the demons are created, the birds are created. So many species are created through the son of Kala and Marichi. Then Ansuya married Atri. And Ansuya was also famous for her chastity. So much so that she actually had the lords as her, she had them as their expansion. So Atri and Ansuya performed severe austerities to obtain the Lord. And they were approached by all 3, by Brahma, Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiv. And they requested all 3 of them to appear as their sons. So Lord Brahma expanded into his son named Soma, the moon god. And Lord Shiv expanded into his son Durvasha, the famous Durvasha Rishi. And Lord Vishnu expanded into his son Dattatreya. Then Shraddha married Angira. And their famous son is Brahaspati, the priest for the Devas. Then Havirbu married Pulastya. So Pulastya Rishi is famous. So the famous son of Pulastya is Agastya Rishi from Havirbu. And Pulastya, of course, he married Kaikeshi also. And that was the starting of the Rakshas dynasty. Ravan was born, and then the Rakshas dynasty started. Pulastya is also the father of Kuber. Then Gati married Pulaha and had 3 sons, Kamashreshta, Variyan, and Sahishnu. Then Kriya married Kratu, and they had the 60,000 Valakliyas. So these are the 60,000 sages who are the size of the thumb, and they travel in front of the chariot of Suryadev. So very exalted sages, very ascetic. They're also considered to protect the universe from the harmful effects of Surya. Then Khyati married Rigurishi, and the famous son is Rishi Chayavan. So it is so Chayavan was very old when he married his wife I forget her name.
Sukanya.
Sukanya. Thank you. So he married Sukanya, and then by the help of Ashwini Kumar, he became young. So that is why in this Ayurveda they have this Chaman Prash. So Chaman Prash is actually derived from Chaman Rishi. That apparently by eating Chaman Prash you will get good health and youth. And Chaman Rishi was so powerful that he actually overrode Indra. So to reciprocate to Ashwini Kumar's, he said that you will also be allowed to partake of the Somras. Initially the Devas had said, because you are doctors, and apparently doctors have a lower status, you're not allowed to partake of Somaras. So when the Ashwini Kumars gave this youth to Chaman Rishi, then he performed the yajna by which the Ashwini Kumars could partake of Soma, and Indra became angry, and he raised his hand to his Vajra to kill him. And Chaman, by the power of his mantra, he froze the hand of Indra. So Indra couldn't move. So these are rishis that are so powerful that they can overwrite demigods, including Indra, at their will. Then Arundhati was married to Vashishta. And Vashishta, as we know, had 100 sons. They were killed by Vishwamitra. One of the sons survived, Shakti. And Shakti was the father of Parashur Muni. And Parashur Muni was the father of Vyasadeva, also the author of Parashur Samhita. And the 9th daughter, Shanti, she married Atharva. And Atharva's son is the famous Dadachi. So Dadachi is the one who gave his body to Indra so that he could make the Vajra. And Dadachi's son was Pipalda. And Pipalda is famous for his teachings, these Upanishadic teachings. So in this way, the 9 daughters, they created a wonderful lineage. Verse 25. Tatasta rishya kshataha kritadar nimantriyatam pratishtam nandimapanaha swam ashram mandalam. Thus married, the sages took leave of Kardam and departed full of joy, each for their own hermitage. O Vidur. Next verse, 26. Sacha vitranam triyugam agya vibhudarshabam vivikta upsangmaya pranmaya samabhasata. When Karda Muni understood that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the chief of all the demigods, Vishnu, had descended, Karda Muni approached him in a secluded place, offered obeisances, and spoke as follows. So in this verse, the Lord is referred to as Triyugam. So one who appears in the 3 yugas. And Triyugam also means that one who is replete in 3 pairs of qualities. So this is the 6 Aishwaryas of wealth, knowledge, fame, renunciation. So Prabhupada says there are different interpretations of 3 yuga, but it is accepted by all learned scholars that 3 yuga means Vishnu. When Karda Muni understood that his son Kapila was Vishnu himself, he wanted to offer his obeisances. Therefore, when Kapila was alone, he offered his respect and expressed his mind as follows. And we'll see that. Why does he approach him in a secluded place? Next verse. Aho papa jamanana niraye swera manglahe kalena bhuyasanunam prasidantita devataha. Kardamuni said, oh, after a long time, the demigods of this universe have become pleased with the suffering souls who are in material entanglement because of their own misdeeds. So, because Kardam had a position of being the father of Kapila, he also understood that Kapila is the personality of Godhead. So, or I should say, while he had the position of being the father, he also understood that he was a personality of Godhead. Now, as a father, it does not follow social etiquette to give obeisances to your son. But as a devotee, it does. Now, Kardam Muni was not at that level of Nanda and Yashoda, who don't really care about the divinity of the Lord. For them, Krishna is son. Even if they see glimpses of Krishna being God, it does not really register on them. That's because this notion of Krishna being their son is so strong. But Kardamani is not at that stage. But he's advanced enough to understand the position of Lord Kapila. So in order to prevent any embarrassments, he approaches the Lord in a secluded place and glorifies him. So he says that you have appeared without motive and only because of your mercy. So he's expressing his humility over here, that you're not appearing because of anything great that I did or any qualities that I have. It's not that I'm a very exalted devotee. It's not that I perform severe austerities. It's not that I'm full of qualities that have attracted you. But it is only because of your mercy. So 3 verses, he will make this point. So in the 3 verses, 3 kinds of people are described. The first is those who worship the demigods. Second is the worshippers of the Brahman. This is described in verse 28. And the third is the worshippers of the Lord himself. This is in verse 29. So this is Vishwanath Chakravarti's analysis that because Kardam Muni is referring to the pleasure of the demigods. So the demigods have become pleased with the suffering souls. So essentially, he is talking about the fact that by the influence of piety that will come by the instructions of Lord Kapila, people will take to the worship of demigods. So Prabhupada writes about that the material place is a place of suffering due to the misdeeds of the inhabitants, the conditioned souls themselves. So he comments on the word niraya swaha amangale. So niraya means that this material engagement is swaha amangale, is because of the jiva's own misdeeds. That one does not become entangled in this because of the desire of the Lord. One cannot become entangled in this because of anybody else forcing. There is one and only one cause of the entanglement, and that is the desire of the soul, the Swa Amangala. So only when the soul desires inauspiciousness for itself, that it becomes entangled. It's a little difficult for us to grasp that why should the soul desire inauspiciousness for itself, but it does. And because of that, it becomes entangled. Prabhupada talks about the satisfaction of the demigods in a slightly different context. That because the demigods are favorably inclined towards the conditioned souls, they of course themselves are conditioned to a lesser extent, but they are happy when the Lord appears, because invariably by his appearance one becomes more pious and their sufferings reduce. So Vishwanath Chakravarti takes it to the next level and says that essentially what it means is that they take more to pious activities, which is worship of the demigods. Okay. Verse 28. Bahujanma vipakrena samyag yoga samadhina dastum yatante yatha shunyagre shuyat padam. After many births, mature yogis, by complete trance in yoga, endeavor in secluded places to see the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here he is talking about the second type of persons who are worshipping the impersonal Brahman. So their perfection is Bahujanma Vipakvena, that after many, many births, they now aspire to see the lotus feet of the Lord. So what does seeing the lotus feet mean? That now they are accepting the personal form. So by the presence of the Lord, those who are inclined to the worship of the impersonal Brahman will now try to attain your lotus feet. Vishwanath Chakravarti also says that this verse could be understood to refer to the misconceptions of the yogis. That the yogis, by performing austerities or trance, think that they are able to see the lotus feet of the Lord, but that is not possible. Okay. So I'm going to finish. I know I'm running out of time, but these three verses go together. So I'll finish this one and then we can pause. So eva bhagavanadya helenam na ganaya naha graheshu jati gramyana yaha swanam pakshaposhanaha. Not considering the negligence of ordinary householders like us, that very same Supreme Personality of Godhead appears in our homes just to support his devotees. So the first talked about those who worship demigods. The second talked about those who worship impersonal Brahman. This talks about the simple devotees of the Lord. Specifically, it's talking about householders, ordinary householders. They're not given to performing extreme austerities. Prabhupada says that this is the Bhakti Vaibhava feature of the Lord. He is never described as Gyan Vatsal or Yogi Vatsal. So Vatsal means that affectionate, very affectionate to his devotees. He is not that affectionate to the Gyanis, not that affectionate to the yogis, but he is Bhakti Vatsal. He said in Bhagavad Gita, it is confirmed that only a devotee can understand him as he is. Bhakti Amam Abhijanati. This is 1855. One can understand me only by devotional service, not otherwise. So in effect, what Maitreya is saying, that by the appearance of Lord Kapila, everybody will be benefited. Those who are inclined to karmkand, worship demigods, those who are inclined to Gyan or Stang, and those who are his pure devotees. But specifically the pure devotees. So this special mercy to the devotees will be expanded in the next two verses, which we'll cover in our next discussion. I'll pause over here, see if we have any points for discussion.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. These yogis, like not this verse, the second one before this. Why they go for so much difficulty and practice for so many years, and how they come? They don't know about devotional service.
So I think it's a two-part answer. One is that, and this is explained in the second canto, that why does Krishna talk about his Virat Purush form? Not once, not twice, but 3 times. And the reason is that those whose hearts are full with material desires, but still take to the practice of yoga, they are unable to perform devotional service. So for them, they meditate on Virat Rupa. When they become further advanced, they meditate on Paramatma. When they become further advanced, then they start meditating on the personality of Godhead. So it's a combination of two things. It's the impurity that they have, and it's their propensity also. So because of the nature, they are attracted to the performance of yoga. They take pleasure in that. Now, we discussed this earlier, that yoga is also a part of devotional service if the object of yoga is Krishna, Swayam Bhagavan. So in itself, yoga is bona fide. It is as good as devotional service. It's a kind of devotional service, or a method, one of the methods of devotional service. We see that in the case of Dhruva Maharaj. Right? What was he doing? He was doing Astanga Yoga, very severe austerities. But what did he get? He got Samipya Mukti, that is reserved for devotees. So his object was Krishna, Swayam, or Vishnu in his case, but he followed the process of yoga. But then there are other yogis who cannot. There are some who just want siddhis. They don't even want the Lord. There are some who want good health. They don't even want siddhis. So that's just based on their propensity and contamination.
Yeah, thank you. Because what I see sometimes is so laborious practice and difficult. That means they must be really, I'm sorry to use that word, really stupid.
Yeah. Until they get the mercy of a devotee. That's
like in the case of Dhruva, it's Narad Muni who is a devotee who gave the mercy.
Yes. Yeah. So when they get the mercy of a devotee, things change. And we see so many people who are, at least the yogis, are aspiring for something transcendental. But there are so many people doing ugra karma, and all that they're getting is repeated birth. That's what Prabhupada says. There, there's uses the word moodas to describe them.
Yeah, I was just thinking about this word.
Yeah. Well,
When I
Prabhupada,
studied stupid, I was thinking about this word.
or more, yeah, somebody asked Prabhupada, why do you use such words? Prabhupada said, I don't use these words. Krishna uses them. I just repeat them.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Prabhu, I just have one very ignorant question. Is Kapiladev Satyavash avatar, is he a Vishnu Tattva or a Jiva Tattva? Here it says he's Vishnu himself. But what is this?
He is Vishnu Tattva. He is Amshena avatar. So he is a portion of Krishna, but he is Vishnu Tattva.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll end here. Vanchakalpatarubhayascha kripa sindhu bhevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Anant Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Hari Gaur Premanand. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.